Everybody, Dr. Rob Silverman here. I'm with my good friend, my relaxed good friend, Asher Allen. It's a pleasure, Asher. How you doing today?
Rob, you already know your family, man. So anytime I can hop on with you and talk about things that are important, things that can help people, you always have me. So happy to see you. You look immaculate yourself. We're both wearing black, so we're in a VIP state of mind right now. So looking
Without
forward to it.
without question. So let me give you a little background on Asher. Asher's a former NFL football player. He's an all-decade player from the University of Georgia. That's a big deal. All SEC. You were a Jim Thorpe finalist. And, your history is fascinating in that you strive for excellence, but you walked away from a lot of money in your last year of a contract because of concussions. So let's kick it off. Tell us all about your career. Tell us how you got there. And, did you leave anything left on the field?
Well, good question, first of all. And to all the organizations I was a part of from Tucker High School here locally in Atlanta, Georgia, and then also University of Georgia and the Minnesota Vikings. These are amazing organizations and amazing communities. So being able to bring smiles to them or being able to help those teams win is it's just a reflection of what they have done for me and my family throughout our lifetime. So I had an opportunity to play under Coach Rick and so many more coaches that were underneath that as well. And then obviously playing for Coach Childress and the Will family and Coach Frazier there at the Minnesota. We just got back from New Orleans, so I had a chance to see a lot of old teammates and old friends and things like that. So we all still stay in close contact. But, those days were amazing. We got a chance to, do what you want to do since you were 8 years old, right? You want to play football. You wanted to compete at the highest level. And unfortunately, like you mentioned and you alluded to, we know that it's a physical game. And the game let me know that it was time. And so I listened. And since then, though, what an amazing life being able to be with the likes of practitioners like yourself and other ones who are just really looking to help people from another angle. So same thing, just a different team and a different roster.
Fascinating. So let me ask you, everybody wants to know who'd you play against? And let's be real. Give us
Yeah.
some of the best players you played against and go out on a limb if you're comfortable in telling me
Yeah.
the best football player that you ever played against. People want to know.
Yeah, well, I was in the NFC North, so we played against Detroit, we played against Green Bay, we played against Chicago. So, some cold games, some black and blue games there. But I would say Aaron Rodgers. We had a fresh Aaron Rodgers and Jennings and Driver, and
Mm.
it was so many athletes that we would go against twice a year. That Calvin Johnson in Detroit, so many guys, Devin Hester in Chicago that we had the opportunity to line up against, and these were some of the amazing things. But I know it's kind of his name is everywhere right now. But I would definitely say, as a DB, obviously we study quarterbacks, we study offenses, and so going against Aaron Rodgers twice a year for those 3 years was amazing. It made me a better player, but I had to give it to him. He did things that were amazing. I was fortunate enough to also have his mentor, his former QB1, which was Brett Favre. So
Wow.
I was really around a lot of greatness and was really happy to compete against them and also learn from them.
Now, Calvin Johnson, people don't realize. First of all, you play defensive back. You were a cornerback, right? Am I
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
And
Correct.
Calvin Johnson's a load. I mean, he's a 6'5" athlete. So it's
Yeah.
tough for a corner. Corners are usually 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
And Aaron is a great quarterback. But I'm going to ask you the big question. Did you play against the GOAT, Tom Brady?
I did. I did. We actually played in Foxborough, which was amazing. I had an opportunity to catch a pick early in the game, and we won't talk about that. But it was amazing to play against him. It's funny when you have a guy on your wall as a kid. You have his
Mm.
poster, and then you're playing against him. It just talks about his diet. It talks about his regime, much like LeBron James, how these guys take care of themselves. But yeah, I do remember playing against him, and it was a pleasure. It was definitely a full circle moment.
That's a great segue into, Tom Brady. We've spoken about him on the podcast before, 80% plan forward, supplements, protein, and the like. And you post career now are highly involved in nutrition. So you are right now getting your master's from my alma mater, University of Bridgeport College of Chiropractic. You're a certified professional exercise specialist, weight loss expert. You really specialize in getting the body in a functional life, both from the inside and out. How did you make this transition, and how important is it for that 15-year-old high school athlete?
Well, super important. Well, I've always been interested in the body. So even when I was at the University of Georgia, my undergrad, the majority of it was in nutrition. It was called health promotion and behavior. So I've always been interested in the body. I come from a family where health is mandatory, health is expected, and so definitely thankful to be in a family like that. Then afterwards, I was somewhere in Minneapolis, but I was invited to an event called the Great Lakes Conference. No idea what it was, no knowledge of it, but some of my friends at that time in Minneapolis, and they're still friends, but some of my friends, they invited me to there. Well, who do I see there? I see Dr. Jeff Bland. I see Dr. Robert Rakowski. I see Dr. Silverman. I see all of these individuals saying things that, for me, for the first time, I didn't realize was the aha moment when it came to the connection between performance, nutrition, longevity, and just having the longest health span that someone can have. And I was hooked from there. I just said, how can I be a part of this? How can I help more of my guys, which is one of my missions in life, is really to bring functional nutrition principles from there and meet athletes where they are and help them to see that, hey guys, it's not normal to take 20 Tylenols. It's not normal to have diarrhea every day. It's not normal to have acid reflux or to be at risk for heart disease in your 30s and 40s. That's not normal. But if you don't know, you don't know. So we no judgment. My goal is to bring those principles to them, man. And like you said, the 15-year-old, what better way to start? Athletes nowadays, due to new legislation and NIL, they're getting paid so
Right.
early. So these are assets. These are future, assets on people's balance sheets, if you want to look at it that way, or for their organization. And so why not pour into them the best that you can so that we can have future Tom Brady's or future Matthew Staffords or future Aaron Rodgers, where these guys are playing, 15 to 20 years and they're leaving with health. You see Tom Brady now. He's not walking around with a walker. He's not walking around in a wheelchair or anything like that. He's active. He has health. So we want to let athletes know that even at the age of 15, we can do that with basic changes. I'm preaching to the choir to you, but
Mhm.
for anyone listening, these are basic changes that I didn't even know. I was in the locker room with some of the smartest athletic trainers, some of the most brilliant minds, but some of these things even pass their minds. So how much more so lay individuals whose world you don't really, rub shoulders with these principles. And so for me, for the 15-year-old, even though you do have youth and you can get away with eating certain foods, how much better will you be in the fourth quarter? How much better will your performance be when it matters if we can apply some of these principles that we may be able to talk about today?
Great setup for me to continue with the conversation, and it is, where should they start? So for me, I believe they should start on with protein consumption, because muscle mass is critical, certainly in athletics. And if we're going to talk football, muscle mass is critical. So let's talk about some different things. So I use what they call a protein digestibility corrected amino acid score. Whew. It's a mouthful, because protein digestibility is corrected amino acid score, measures the protein quality based on amino acid composition and digestibility. It's a scale based on one. Animal proteins generally score higher than plant proteins. So I'm going to give you a couple of sides. Number one, if somebody wants a plant protein, they have to add leucine, 2.5 grams of leucine, to make it as effective as animal protein. So we set the stage with animal proteins. We set the stage with plant proteins and protein. What other items do they need in the nutritional toolbox to advance, to go from that high school bench player to first string, and maybe, let's just say, help them get into college?
Excellent question. And just to kind of go along with you, protein is everything. You think about it as an athlete, what we do during training camp or what we do during mini camp, we are eating a ton and we are lifting a ton. Because Rob, what we all know is that this is a very, very long season. And if I, as a running back, don't have a lot of muscle mass, we all see those hits every Sunday and Saturday. Those things hurt. But the muscle will provide a cushion for, you look at Saquon Barkley, look at his physique, look at those legs, look at those
Wow.
shoulders. You
Amazing.
have to be able to keep that muscle while burning 3,000 to 5,000 calories a day in practice, and even more during the game. So right on, Rob. Protein is so important, and a high quality protein with the appropriate amino acids so that your body is not pulling from it, then you find yourself later on in the year, you don't have that get, right? A lot of athletes know about that second gear. You think about Adrian Peterson finishing runs. You think
Wow.
about Tyreek Hill finishing runs. That's that second and third gear. Well, you got to have the muscles to do it. And the muscles also need to have the ingredients that they need to be able to perform. Next, I would say one of the most important things that we can do is have appropriate vitamin D status. Now, vitamin D, we've heard about that a lot during COVID. We understood what that meant for our immune system. But also, what individuals may not know is that there is a receptor for vitamin D on every single cell of our body. So I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but that tells me that the big man upstairs thinks it's important. So if we have vitamin D at adequate levels, right? I like it above 60 in the upper tier. You're going to perform better, just period, because all your cells are going to have what it needs to perform, period. After that, a high quality fish oil or an omega-3 source, right? We know that our cell membrane is made up of this. And so for athletes, one of the things I want to say is your cell membrane, for many, the quality of your cell membrane is the quality of your health. And think about this: when we have injuries, we actually injure our cells, right? Tissue cells, muscle cells,
Right.
whatever the case may be. What we know is that these omega 3s have anti inflammatory and pro resolving properties. What does that mean? You're not going to be hurt as long and you can recover faster. That's another way of saying that. And so, if we can have those molecules saturating our cells already, they're in the cell membrane, then when we do have that injury, boom, they're right there. They're just like the athletic trainers. When you have a cramp, they run from the sideline and they're right there. Boom. We get the pickle juice, we get our electrolytes, and we're back in the game. Just like that with having adequate amounts of EPA, DHA, and pro-resolving mediators in your cell membrane. That is an amazing hack
Mm.
that if athletes just did that, would be amazing. And so for me personally, I would say Mount Rushmore for an athlete, even at the age of 15, let's say protein, we're going to say vitamin D, then we're going to say omega 3. If we can have that in adequate amounts, we're really going to be rocking and rolling.
Fabulous. So protein, the basis, the macronutrient of choice for muscle building, enzymatic reactions, and also to allow yourself to efficiently function within a glucose spike, because you know you're going to need some carbohydrates. Vitamin D, which has a swath of health promoting properties, outstanding choice. Vitamin D3 with K2. I know you meant that. So we got protein, vitamin D3 with K2, and omega-3 fatty acids with pro-resolving mediators, which put the switch, the literal light switch, on resolution of inflammation. Because as you said so articulately, if we're too inflamed and we're broken down, we're not going to be able to come back and play the next Friday. You know, I think it's Friday night I didn't play high school football, but
Yeah. Friday nights in high school. Yeah,
Friday night lights.
Tucker is shut down during that time. So, and you know what, Rob? I want to say this. Somebody may be looking at this and saying, "Hey, what about creatine? What about these energy drinks? And what about the creatine? And what about these, sexy supplements that gives me all this energy?" Well, my question is this: you're taking all those supplements, you're buying all those supplements, but where's it going?
Mm.
It's like buying amazing furniture, but you don't have a house to put it in. Where are you putting it? So we have to take care of basic things first so that when we get to these more advanced supplementation and nutrition regimens, now we're going to be really optimizing. So you may be hearing protein, you know about that, but vitamin D and omega 3s, that's not cool. That's the stuff that, my mom used to give me or my dad used to give me. It's so important. And the real athletes at the highest level, they're taking all of these in adequate amounts because they recognize it.
Here. An additional thing. I just read an article that it was vitamin D3, omega 3s, and 30 minutes of exercise 3 times a year had a tremendous longevity boost for the dads and the moms. Mm-hmm. But here's the real question. I get asked this a lot. How do I get my 15, 16-year-old teenage athlete to watch what they eat or to eat for performance? Now, you went through that.
Yeah.
You work with kids. You work with clients. Yeah. What's the secret sauce?
I would say this. First of all, give yourself grace. It's tough. If you're a parent, I speak at the gym locally here in Tucker. A lot of the parents there, they have athletes that are getting ready to go to college, and that's a concern of them. Well, first of all, just know it's tough, right? It's really tough for a child to have youth, and he can eat what he wants, and he can still perform. It's really, really tough. But at the end of the day, we know that a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, they're going to eat what's on the plate, right? They're going to eat what's there. So it really starts with the nucleus at the home. So the family head, the parents, whomever is there, you really are going to set the tone. So whatever's on that plate, we know he's going to eat. So it starts at home. Be sure that, if we keep things to leans, greens, nuts, and seeds without getting too further. And one thing that I always love that you say, if man made it, you can take that out. If man made it, I won't eat it. So that's one of the key principles that, I always make sure that I let these individuals know. But first and foremost, again, it starts at home. So if what you're making at home is clean, we know that your 15-year-old athlete is going to eat that. Allow them to cook, allow them to make it. There's a lot of pride in cooking. So if they're able to do it themselves, they're obviously going to be a little bit more excited to eat it. But then outside of that, one of the biggest things is when these individuals go on their visits, right? So college visits, when they're really interested, they're going to see the University of Georgia, University of Alabama. A lot of these individuals, they have kitchens in the locker room. I was amazed at that when recently I went to go visit, and they're eating clean, healthy foods. So even at the college level, I think it's increased with NIL. They're recognizing that these are high quality assets that are going to be for us, for 3 to 4 years, and then for 10 plus years in the NFL. We know that we need to make sure that they have what they need to perform. So one, parents, it starts with you. Two, let's educate the 15-year-olds and let them know what this is doing.
I echo everything you said. It starts at home. And I agree. Why should we have the student athlete eat healthy and the parents not? Why don't we make it a kumbaya moment for everybody, because health is wealth and it's a family time, it's community. I agree with that. I had a patient and she was going to be a D1 volleyball player, tall young lady, number one in her class academically, has it all going on. She happened to be gluten and dairy free for health reasons. And I said to her, what do you do when you go out with your friends and they rib you a little bit? Say, come on, let's have a pizza. She said, you know what? I realized that this determination and this sacrifice now is something I can take with me no matter what I do in life. 17 years old, having that kind of epiphany. And that's what you're purporting now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you made me think about Tom Brady's Hall of Fame speech, or it was a recent speech that I saw. He had on a red jacket, but he talked about all the sacrifices, that he has made to get to where he gets to. And again, at the end of the day, if you have a bad case of the wants, you'll do what you need to do. But this is an easy hack for us to be stronger, faster, to get bigger, and also to have a better mental acuity when we're out there on the field. All of this stuff, again, for the younger population, this is what the pros are doing. The earlier you're going to do that, the earlier you're going to get it, and the earlier you'll be successful.
It's funny you bring Brady up, and I'm from New York, so we beat him twice. So Tom Brady's okay with us, yeah, as a Giant fan. But when he started as announcer, which was just recent, they were concerned about him. He was a little stiff, and he said, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to figure it out." And now he's doing color commentary at the Super Bowl. So he took what he did in football as I think it was a 6th round draft pick, and basically had a not football physique, couldn't jump, run too high, and became probably the greatest quarterback ever. So it just shows that these things translate to success in life, and you're starting now. But before we go any further, we do this rapid fire thing. I know you're a Southern guy, but in New York, we love this rapid fire. So get ready, strap in. Here we go.
Here we go.
Greatest running back ever.
I played with Adrian Peterson. I must say his name needs to be there. Obviously, you got Sweetness. Walter Payton's got to be there. You got Jim Brown. You got to say those names, LaDainian Tomlinson. But I played with a beast, AD. So I'm going to go with Adrian Peterson, man.
I think this one's easy. Greatest wide receiver.
Ooh, I'm going to keep with Minnesota theme, man, for all my Skull Vikings. We're going to go with Randy Moss.
Wow. Great basketball player, too.
Well, then I gotta shout out Michael Irvin as well. That's family. So make sure I add him to that. But I'll go playmaker and Moss.
Yeah, you know what? Michael Irvin got 3 rings. You can't argue with that. Greatest quarterback ever.
Woo-wee! Man, this is good. Greatest quarterback ever. We got to go with Tom Brady. Come on, man.
I'll make it easy for you defensively. Give me your 3 greatest defensive players. I didn't go 1, I went 3.
All right, I'm gonna start off with the guy who I played with, Antoine Winfield. His name does not get talked about enough. Antoine Winfield was one of the not only a great dude. You see his son playing in Tampa, and you know the apples don't fall too far from the tree. So I would say Antoine Winfield. He was an amazing mentor, teammate, and just a player. A lot of people don't know about him. Charles Woodson, an amazing player, and then I'm gonna stay with the DBs and go with Deion Sanders.
So you stuck with the DBs. Well, I saw a guy, I'm going to throw him out to you, called the LT Express.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
All right.
he's amazing. Come on, man.
I saw a guy also, and I'm really taxing my age, Mean Joe Green.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, Butkus I didn't get to. Just throwing some other things out there.
Yeah.
So we referenced earlier that you gave up playing a fourth year because of concussions. Why don't you go through that whole thought process and explain to people what you were going through and that how important it was for you to be able to be cognitive in your later adult years?
Yeah, well, great question. Great question. I appreciate you asking that as well. You know, more than anything, what made it more challenging is that Minnesota became family. So no longer being out there with my guys was a very, very tough thing. But as you know, and as we know a lot more now, we know the long-term effects of concussions. And you know what's so funny, Rob, is that when I go to a doctor or anything like that, they'll say, okay, tell me your history of concussions. And I'll say, okay, well, what's a concussion? They'll say, well, did you ever see double? Yeah. Did you ever see different colors? Yeah. See stars? Yes. I said that was called Monday. That was called Tuesday.
Oh,
That wasn't
wow.
a concussion from my generation. You know, a concussion was being knocked out and woken up. That okay, you had a concussion. So for my generation, you know, our standard. So I really, really love what I'm seeing as far as, you know, just seeing them really take this serious. And I understand that in our culture, especially in the locker room, you know, we really pride ourselves on being not having the injury bug, on being able to play a full season, not being able to take breaks. But for me personally, uh, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze in the sense that obviously what an amazing platform and again a group of people to be with, but for my health, for my future family and the desires that I have to be a part of them, their lives, and to be able to do the best that I can do, I recognize that after having multiple concussions that my brain health was of utmost importance, and feeding right into functional nutrition to optimize that gives me even more motivation to, you know, eat the way I do or try my best to eat the way I do according to the professionals that I work with, according to my genetics, according to my food sensitivities and things like that, so that I can optimize my brain health. But very difficult decision for anyone. You think about all the years you put together, but as we do know is that, you know, there are more important things that are out there. So for me, it was appropriate to make the leap at that time.
Well, it was Asher Allen redemption, if you will. That was great. Let me piggyback a little bit on the concussion. You make a really good point. You don't need a blown out concussion. So Kronk got hit a few years ago. My wife hates to watch football. I apologize. And he looked like he was drunk, and she said he has a concussion. So it doesn't have to be that obvious. It can be these mild sub concussions that these athletes occur. These kids, these 12, 13-year-old kids pounding each other in football, even in lacrosse, women also. Did you know that the number one athlete in high school susceptible to concussion is a female soccer player? Women are more susceptible to concussion than men. It's a fascinating number, but bringing it back or reeling it back into the point is that, you know, you don't have to have a full-blown concussion to have brain damage or to start to slow down. And, you know, the brain is 3 pounds. It has the texture of Jello. I mean, really, it's Jello moving around inside the hardest bone in the body, your skull. So when you really think about that, you know, I believe your decision was more than warranted. But let's get to some of your rehab from the concussion. So you look how articulate you are. You're quick. You're pithy. Everything's working well. You know, you didn't fall down that slippery slope. So tell some people about.
I had my coffee.
Well, I've got mine also, and both of us are drinking organic coffee, so I don't want to hear it in the notes.
Exactly. Always, always.
So tell me
Uh,
some of the rehab things that you did.
Well, one of the biggest things is like you mentioned, just understanding what the brain is made out of and giving it more of it. So we know that it is made up of a very high quality fat, predominantly called DHA. And so we want to make sure that we give it what it needs. We also know that it's one of a very, very well hydrated organ as well, but we also know that it needs magnesium. It also needs vitamin D. It also needs a plenty of rest, right? We know that the brain shrinks at nighttime to detox, and then when we wake up, it rehydrates or reconstitutes itself to back to its normal shape. So, are we getting adequate sleep, or are we up on our phones and things like that? So much of our health is related to, obviously our brain. That's not rocket science, but as far as the things that we can do for it, it's so important. One of the things that you've really championed, Rob, and I'm not saying this to toot your horn. I've just known you for over a decade, so I'm just so proud of you. But we know that what you do to your brain, you do to your gut. What you do to your gut, you do to your brain.
Okay.
We know that there is a super highway to health that goes from your gut to your brain and vice versa. These are things that, as athletes, I can communicate it this way to you all. You know how when you get a concussion, what's one of the first things we do? We either throw up or have to go to the toilet with diarrhea. That is the gut brain axis. And you are one of the most well versed people on it. Or we are nauseous afterwards. Or after we have a concussion, we'll do a stress test and we can barely go on a treadmill without throwing up or without feeling dizzy or anything like that. Directly connected. Or maybe after you have a concussion. I'll say that again. Or maybe after you have a concussion, you're just not there. The focus isn't there. You maybe not feel as excited for things. Well, now we know, and again, professionals have known this forever, but for athletes, we're becoming a little bit more understanding that the majority of our neurotransmitters, the things that make us feel happy, that makes us feel focused, that makes us feel loved, that makes us feel like we're worth something, is actually made in our gut. And if our gut is getting bombed through poor diet or through trauma, like a concussion, then we're going to have a lot of issues. And so, those things that we experience as athletes post concussion, there is a root cause to it. And thankfully, there's a root cause resolution aspect as well. So, what we do for our brain, one, first, do no harm. What we do to our gut, we're doing to our brain. So, what am I doing to my gut? I want to give them the things that you preach about and that you have talked about for decades, Dr. Rob. And one of your favorite things that you say is DNA and GPS. And so if you don't know what that is, I'm going to let you figure that out. Go look up Dr. Rob and figure out what that means. So I try to adhere to those principles. And then also, again, if man made it, I don't touch it. If God made it, eat it. We try to stick to those principles. But from there, obviously, we can get a lot more granular, from which, clients that I work with or clients that work with our practitioners, our functional nutrition practitioners, are going to be well taken care of.
Well, without question, it's music to my ears. Whatever you do to your gut, you do to your brain. Whatever you do to your brain, you do to your gut. To piggyback on what you said about a concussion and nausea, 6 out of 10 post-concussion people have something wrong with the gut, whether it's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and or leaky gut. So some of the concussion nutritional protocols that I adhere to really put together in a nice tight bow what you were saying, diet. And I believe in a ketogenic diet post-concussion because a ketogenic diet makes what we call ketone bodies. They provide energy for the brain. Creatine. I know you're a big creatine proponent. It gives the brain an intense immediate energy to heal cells. You spoke about it before, to reduce inflammation damage, to create an anti-inflammatory milieu in the brain, omega-3 fatty acids, and pro-resolving mediators. Incidentally, omega-3 fatty acids taken post-concussion decrease the injury status of the concussion by 75%. But here's really something that you want to adhere to. Take it before the concussion. So if you have a child, if you have a patient, if you have a student that partakes in collision sports and concussion is an issue, take omega-3 fatty acids 2 grams prior. It precipitously decreases the incidence of concussion. Antioxidants like alpha lipoic acid. Choline also is great. Choline's in egg yolk. Choline switches off this thing called a microglial cell in your brain, which are macrophages in your brain, which eat up brain tissue. It makes it go from pro-inflammatory to anti-inflammatory. zinc, sulforaphane, magnesium, like you said, magnesium L-threonate. Magnesium L-threonate decreases brain aging 9 to 14 years. Glutathione, as I'm running out of time, glutathione decreases brain tissue injury by 70%. And last but not least, let's not forget an amino acid called taurine, because it protects against excitotoxicity. You don't have to take all of those, but they are a checklist that you can look at and pick from.
And Rob, what an amazing list. And I think for any of the viewers here, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but any of the viewers here, if you like what you're hearing, or if you want to know a little bit more, again, we have literally touched the fringes, the outskirts of this discussion. If you would really like a deeper dive into functional nutrition, or not basic nutrition, functional nutrition for athletes, let me know. I would love to hop back on, or we can do something special for you all. But so in the comments, wherever this is posted, if this is something you want to learn more about, or my athletes, if you want to learn more about this, let us know. We would love to kind of do a little bit more of this if the demand is there.
I'm sure people are going to respond to that. So just before we let you go, my buddy in Switzerland, he always asks me, Rob, I watch every podcast. Give me those 3, or have that guest give me 3 takeaways that I can implement on Monday morning. The stage is yours.
Okay, wonderful. Again, staying in context, 1, for an athlete, what you eat matters. That's 1. 2, basic things that you can do to optimize your nutrition recovery: protein, vitamin D, and omega-3s. 3, understand the science behind what a concussion is and the other downstream effects that it may have in the body, as we talked about the gut. So understand that when you're working with a practitioner and you get a concussion and he works on your gut, stay with him. Don't run away from him. And you'll definitely be on your way to success.
And look for a practitioner that understands that the body's all interconnected, and root cause resolution means figuring out the system that's failing, not the symptom that you're speaking about. Asher Allen, gentleman, erudite, former NFL player. Thank you so much. We got to have you back on.
Got to do the LeBron at the end, man. Hey, love you, man. You already know how I feel about you. Best wishes with everything, and keep doing what you're doing, bro.
Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
All right, take care.
Dr. Rob Silverman, Proven Health Alternatives.